Would also love, NK. I mean, we've already learned so much from you sharing all of this, and I'd love to also, on that point, head to Pamela as well to tell us on the topic of what can people do. So, what can organizations like No More do to elevate the issues that are faced by women in war zones that you were just speaking about, NK?
No worries. When organizations can do around the world is really put this topic in the forefront. Talk about it. When you see a story, a report, elevate it. Make sure that it stays within the media discussion that, sexual assault is happening in war zones like Ukraine at the moment. When we hear those stories, it's because there's a lot of silence and, again, a lot of underreporting. You don't get to see all the stories. We don't even know the stories of people that ultimately were killed, for example, right? They'll take that to their graves. So it's very important for organizations and for the public to understand that this is a tool of war. It happens in the same way that we see machinery, that we see other, destroyed buildings, and that, it's important to give our attention. So I think it's about elevating our voice. If anything, with many conflicts, you never know if wherever you're in the world might not be a conflict area, but it could be one day. So it's important that we keep on top of this topic and we don't silence it as it happens. So I think that's where we would support any organization, and we're really proud to work with Avon on trying to bring this to the forefront and to give resources to organizations that want to help or want to do something in conflict areas.
That's the perfect segue to Angela. So, as we heard, Avon works with women across the world, and I would love if you could tell us more about your commitment to reduce violence towards women.
Indeed, violence, unfortunately, doesn't happen just in the war zones. It happens around the world. 1 in 3 women would be the victim of an abusive relationship or violence during her lifetime. And this is a horrible statistics. Many of them don't even report. And we do have this situation globally, both in developing and developed markets. Together for now many years, we have realized that we can unite our voices together with our millions of representatives to recognize the signs. Women talk easier one with another. We understood quite early in our history of Avon that we could have the social impact of empowering one another and really address this deep issue, which is the inequality. That it is one of the roots of the domestic violence everywhere, is the lack of equality. And we tackle it in 2 fronts. Yes, so on one hand side, we said we have to be there and working with amazing people like Pamela and her organization, and we share resources and collect and donate with NGOs around the world to support the frontline services of supporting women who have been already victims of domestic violence with shelters, legal support, working with legislators around the world to create a proper system, not only to prevent the violence, but as well support the victims. And equally, we engage, as I just called out, we engage our millions of representatives that in their communities, they themselves become agents of change and agents of support, know how to read the signs, how to understand if a woman it's not living her life in a safe environment, and then guide her where would she find support. And I think it's our role, all of us together, through different means, from direct donations to speaking up, like NK is doing so passionately, to creating a better legislative system, to even raising our voice to stop the senseless war globally. We could do a better world, create a better world for women and of course a better world for all.
And NK, I mean, you have been able to use your voice to inspire so many different people. And I would love if you could speak to, as an artist, what role does music and the arts play in helping women during times like this?
Артисти та публічні особи під час війни стали активістами та на інформаційному фронті. Кожен артист з України щосили кричить про війну та її, звичайно, наслідки. Я в багатьох інтерв'ю на іспаномовних та англомовних передачах розповідала ті страшні історії насилля над жінками, щоб привернути увагу до цієї, звичайно, теми. На благодійних акціях, виступах та подіях як артист я транслюю важливий меседж до світу. Війна в Україні має бути зупинена. Російські окупанти мають покинути нашу незалежну державу. І вони не мають права тероризувати наших жінок, наших дітей і в цілому всю націю, всіх українців. І сподіваюся, це пришвидшить процес притягнення до відповідальності тих, хто їх скоює.
As you know, artists and public people or people of publicity. So during the war, we all got united, and we became activists and kind of soldiers of the information battlefield. Every artist from Ukraine is literally shouting out, crying out the message, the truth about this war and its terrible consequences. I have told many times in these terrible stories and live witnesses in numerous interviews in Spanish and English language programs, TV shows, just to draw attention to this problem of violence and abuse, physical abuse done on women in Ukraine. This is done and I believe with the help of speeches, public performances, with charity actions, with such public events. All Ukrainians, they broadcast and they share, they disseminate a very important message to the world. So the war in Ukraine must be stopped. The Russian occupiers, they have no legal right to be on our territory. They should leave it. And because this is the territory of an independent state, they have no right to terrorize our women. They have no right to terrorize our children and Ukrainians in general. We hope that these messages and our efforts, they will just speed up the moment that we are waiting for the victory of Ukraine. And finally, that our efforts will bring to the justice those who are guilty in these crimes.
На жаль, ми не можемо повернути час назад та запобігти усім скоєним злочинам проти українських жінок. Але зараз ми можемо надати максимальну підтримку, розповсюдити інформацію, а відповідальні мають покарати винних.
Unfortunately, these are not us who are in power to turn the clock around, to turn the time back, but this is us who can and must prevent the war crimes. And finally, those who are in responsibility to punish the people who are guilty for the war crimes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, NK. And I think that I want to pose a final question to all of you, which is for all of our listeners, how can they support your work? How can they get involved to end gender-based violence towards women, particularly those in war zones? So maybe, Angela, let's start with you.
First of all, violence is never the answer. Wherever in the world, against whomever. Violence is never the answer, and we deeply believe that beauty is strongly interlinked with peace. We've collected and donated more than $88 million to date, and we are not going to stop till we reach, hopefully, a better world for all. And my call for everyone is never stay silent thinking that your family and your immediate group of friends, it's safe. We are all connected. The entire humanity, we are responsible to create a better future for ourselves and for our children. So I'm asking everyone to do from the little gesture of sharing a call to join the movement and share our voice, to do steps to support a woman in need, or an NGO, or directly, it's reading the signs of the abuse and intervening when they see something is not right. We all have to be much more active to prevent and combat violence around the world.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'd love to go to you now. Pamela, can you expand on how can people support the critical work that No More is doing?
I think when it relates to kind of sexual conflict, for the people who are, privileged enough to be able to help, I would always invite them to remember when they see the scenes, of, distressed people moving, that this is also happening, that this is another place that is in need. We tend to think on the tangible, but this will destroy, a person's lifetime. So please look for organizations that are in the area working and that can actually provide this type of support. If you can't donate, it's, as Angela said, about speaking up. I'm really hopeful. In the pandemic, for example, we saw how many people just got very concerned about, victims of domestic violence in the house. And they started, helping, contacting organizations. And we've never seen more reports from bystanders, just people wanting to get involved. So in the case of sexual violence in war zones, I make the same invitation, especially today in Peace Day. Let's, make sure that we know what is happening and that we can raise our voice together. And that will surely create the impact that we need.
And can you also share, are there any big campaigns or initiatives coming up? What's on the horizon for you all?
For us, one of the things that No More does is elevate the voice of organizations that are on the ground and working with them. So that's the work that we will continue to do. We'll continue to put in the forefront. We're a global organization. So especially what are those organizations? What are they doing? So people can contact, donate, and carry on working with companies like Avon to make sure that this, with their huge voice, this is something that we keep on thinking about as long as we're seeing, war in Ukraine and wars all over the world.
Angela, I'd love for you to also jump in here and share what's on the horizon for Avon. What are some of the big initiatives that you all are passionate about going forward and supporting?
It's just upcoming right now in the next weeks. We call it the 16 Days Against Violence, where we are going every day as to raise our voice and create different, concepts activation to really make people becoming aware of the horrible statistics, both in the war zones and out, of what women are getting confronted with over their lifetime, and what every one of us can actually do to prevent and as well combat violence. And then we are engaging our millions of representatives to talk in their micro communities about this issue. These are women, when they meet together, they don't talk just about the lipstick or the opening a brochure. They equally talk about their life issues. They talk about love. They talk about pain. They talk about hope. They talk about how to create a better life for themselves and for those around themselves. I think that's a perfect opportunity and the social impact we want to create by bringing that information and that empowerment and that support for women to be able to free themselves from any kind of restriction of their freedom, especially financially, when it comes to the equality of chance and right to be to the education. And all of these are going to contribute, hopefully, to any powerful women who would be able to live safe lives in dignity.